Steve Bannon, contempt of Congress? Maybe. The breakdown starts now. Good evening and welcome to The Breakdown. I'm Tara Setmayer. This is the Rick Wilson. And tonight we have a great show for you in store. Our friend Charlie Sykes from The Bulwark will be joining us in a little bit to talk a little political headlines and what's going on here in Virginia and what's happening in Trump world. And we all love Charlie. He's always got a fun time. So stay tuned for Charlie Sykes. He'll be joining us in a few minutes. But first, Rick Wilson.
How are you tonight, Tara?
Your favorite villain in the whole world, Steve Bannon, may be in some trouble.
Looks the Gristle Icarus.
Yeah. Looks like some folks may have heard us and are listening to us over there at the January 6th committee. And they are preparing for a contempt of Congress referral for him next week, or is it this week, if he doesn't show up. I'm glad to hear that. They need to do that. That's important. We had Harry Litman on the show on Tuesday talking about what some of the options were. And there's still some debate about whether the inherent contempt, which hasn't been used since 1927, I think, in Congress, which gives Congress the power to actually lock people up for contempt, or if it's going to be litigated through the Justice Department, where it's probably going to be that route. You know, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves now and do something that hasn't been done in a while, God forbid. But I still think this is progress, and this is a good thing.
You know, I think I'll take look. Last Friday when I got in the brouhaha with the committee, and from what people were telling me around the committee, that it wasn't working, that it was going to go slow, that they were scared of inherent contempt, they were scared of pushing too far, they were scared of these people they're dealing with. Well, they have to understand, and I think they're starting to, that we live in a very different world. This isn't the world of staff and procedure and the old way of doing things. You have to move fast, hit hard. You have to be faster than the bad guys in your decision-making processes. It's the classic OODA loop, and you've got to move faster in your OODA loop than they move in theirs. Steve Bannon is still, right now, swaggering around enough to go out last night to a completely batshit bugfuckaroo insane rally in Virginia.
Oh, we're going to talk about it.
For Glenn Youngkin, which we'll get to, everybody. He still feels confident enough to do that. And look, until he feels the itchy surface of an orange jumpsuit or the icy bite of handcuffs, I think Steve Bannon will display his contempt. And in part, because Steve Bannon's playing a much longer game than the committee understands.
Yes.
Steve Bannon is playing a game right now to position himself, to put himself back in Trump's inner circle.
Which is
Steve
a scary
Bannon is positioning
thought.
himself to be the chief strategist 2.0 for Donald Trump.
Well, he got Trump to give him a pardon.
Right.
I mean, he fell out with Trump. Trump didn't like him. You know, he made fun of him being slovenly and all of this, and he fired him basically relatively quickly in the first year of his presidency. And yet Steve Bannon was able to slither his way back into the good graces enough to get a pardon. So he's very wily that way. We cannot underestimate Steve Bannon. He's very manipulative and very smart and dangerous because what he's peddling, he's trying to make it seem like it's mainstream, like trying to make it seem like it's very erudite. But it's a very dangerous ideology that undermines our democracy every single day. And people are buying into it. And guess what? Glenn Youngkin in Virginia
is buying into it.
He bought into it because last night there was a rally in the suburbs of Richmond, and Youngkin was not there. He had enough sense at least not to be there. But the people who were there were part of this MAGA world, pro-insurrectionist crazy group. And Steve Bannon was the headliner. And there were some other interesting characters there as well, including someone who they decided that let's pledge allegiance to a flag that was at a, quote, peaceful rally on January 6th. We had something to say about that today. Roll it.
Now, I also want to invite Kim from Chesapeake. She's carrying an American flag that was carried at the peaceful rally with Donald J. Trump on January 6th.
Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Lincoln Project paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising.
A peaceful rally.
Yeah.
We're going to pledge allegiance with a flag that was used at that rally. How many police officers were assaulted with that, quote, peaceful rally on January 6th? I mean, how disgusting.
You know, Tara, it speaks to the alternate reality these folks live in. They are building this structure for the Trump audience in their heads that says the election was stolen, that the attack on the Capitol, the terrorist attack on our Capitol on January 6th was either a tourist visit or a peaceful protest or as you're starting to see creep into their rhetoric now, justified because the election was stolen and therefore they had to take action as patriots. Well, guess what?
That's the more dangerous part of this.
Guess what?
They're justifying
that will become the narrative. It will be reinforced by Facebook and Fox in the minds of those Republican voters. And by the end of this year, every single one of them will believe, you can wake them up out of a sound sleep and they'll say, oh no, January 6th was perfectly justified. And that should scare the shit out of people. And it puts the lie to who Glenn Youngkin is in Virginia. Okay.
Absolutely.
It absolutely puts the lie to it. Now, Youngkin tonight issued a bizarre and frankly, like way working too hard statement. It's like, it's weird and wrong to salute a flag from January 6th. He is the same guy who yesterday is talking about doing election recounts and election audits in Virginia.
Which they already do, by the way.
Right, which they automatically do, right? You know, yeah, you're
yes,
I
live here.
Yeah.
They already do this.
So the idea that Trump isn't in complete control of this movement and that they won't redefine the truth in any way possible. They will flex it, they will bend it, they will break it, they will shape it into something new. And folks, if you're on the outside of Trumpism, the outside of MAGA world, this is why a lot of the times I say things like, wake the fuck up, get it together. This is why I have to do things sometimes to shock people into forward motion, like last Friday. It is because if you believe they operate on the tempo, the timeline, and the truth base that you operate from, you're out of your damn mind. These people are intent on the overthrow of the system of government we have today. They're working in the states to build these systems where they will just decide they're going to ignore elections they don't like. And if you elect Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, he will do things on an executive basis, even if he doesn't have a majority in the House and Senate of Virginia, and the Assembly and the delegates. He will do things by executive order that help lock in and guarantee Donald Trump's election in 2024. Trump is going to cheat. They will have a coup at the ballot box next time. Yep. He is going to be the Republican nominee. People, I know you don't want to keep talking about it. I know you're exhausted by it. I know you'd love to fight about infrastructure or tax rates or climate change or healthcare or any other thing in the world. But it's the only fight we're having. It's the real fight. It's the actual battle. And a lot of these people that are critical of the fact that I called the committee out, you know, these are basically staffers who live in a bubble. They don't understand how power works. They don't understand the post-Trump, post-truth era in the Republican Party. They don't understand how ruthlessly the other side will exploit every gap, every moment, every breath, every lacuna. Every time you blink an eye, they're going to find a way to screw you. They're going to find a way to slit your throat. And if you don't think that these people right now are still waiting to see if the committee's serious, you're wrong. They're still waiting to see. So you can't just announce it. You can't put a press release out and say, we will use every action. You have to use every action. We will do everything possible. You have to do everything possible.
I don't know what
these
more
people
it's going to
exist
take.
in the, they exist in reality world of power. And unless you use power, you lose it.
That's right. And the Democrats are in danger of losing the House and that power next year if they don't get it together here in Virginia. I mean, I know folks are probably like, well, I don't live in Virginia. Why should I care? Because it is a bellwether going into the 2022 midterms. If the Democrats lose here It will depress Democrats across the country. It will energize Republicans. And they will, I don't know that they'll learn the lessons that they needed to learn if they lose here. And it endangers all of the moderate swing district Democrats out there that are fighting for their lives. This complicates things. So that's why we are continuing to talk about this. That's why Lincoln Project is getting involved in it, because the Democrats on one side are trying to fight a policy battle, and the Republicans are not interested in that fight. They're interested in a culture war. They're interested in an ideological battle that is way bigger than anybody's tax cuts, than anyone's climate change legislation. They don't care. They want to traffic on fear, and that motivates people. And they are nationalizing the midterms. They're nationalizing the race right now in Virginia. That is why they're talking about critical race theory and immigration and borders. Like, none of that has anything to do with Virginia. But that's what they're doing because they know that motivates people. So Glenn Youngkin has been semi-successful in trying to thread this needle of being this Mitt Romney Republican, which he's not, and still playing footsie with MAGA world because he knows he needs them. Well, he's starting to put more of his foot into that MAGA world muck by going on Seb Gorka's radio
White Power
show.
Hour.
That's right, as Rick calls it. Last night's rally, which had so many insane things going on there. Besides the flag thing, you also had Bannon and his ilk and what he was talking about. And Donald Trump called in, and he's making this threat about if you don't investigate the big lie and election fraud in 2020, Republicans aren't going to vote in 22 and 24. And this is not making Republic right. We're happy with that. Fine.
Okay.
Stay home then. Pull another Georgia. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
But this is making, of course, the powers that be very nervous. The head of the NRCC, Representative Emmer, was like, yeah, Trump's a private citizen. He has a right to his own opinion. But at the same time, they're sending out these like fascist text messages to people, calling them traitors if they don't give money to support Trump's agenda.
Have you betrayed the dear leader?
Right.
Your life is forfeit.
It's almost that. The only thing they're missing was dear leader. They literally say you're a traitor if right. That's crazy talk. So this is what we're dealing with here. And that's why we feel that it's so important to continue to put a spotlight on what's going on here in Virginia and make the distinction that Glenn Youngkin, he's not what you think he is. Okay. He is a Trump guy. He will listen to Donald Trump. He answers to Trump. And the hashtag Glenn Trumpkin, which we had an ad last week calling Glenn Youngkin Glenn Trumpkin. The hashtag was trending today, and we want to show you the ad. Take a look.
Who is Glenn Youngkin? Depends on where he is that day. In Northern Virginia, he pretends to be a moderate Republican. This version of Youngkin won't tell the truth about his views on abortion or gun control. He even admits Joe Biden won fair and square.
Joe Biden's our president.
But all that changes when he travels to MAGA country. That's when you'll see the real Youngkin. He brags about getting Trump's endorsement.
And I thanked him for it.
Does campaign events with the same stop-the-steal criminals that attacked our Capitol. Youngkin even backs wild conspiracies about Trump being reinstalled as president soon. He'd change his name to Glenn Trumpkin to win. He'd govern like Trump, too. Just like his pals Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott. He may be Glenn Youngkin in Northern Virginia, but he's Glenn Trumpkin everywhere else.
The Lincoln Project paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising.
So there it is. Continue that hashtag when we talk about Virginia, Glenn Trumpkin, because that's who he is. As a friend of mine, a Democratic friend of mine said to me today, he is Donald Trump in dad jeans. Don't let him fool you.
Reed Galen came up with a line today. He's a Trump in mitt clothing.
That's great. Well, I know someone else may have a good nickname for him. Let's bring in our friend Charlie Sykes.
Yes.
Charlie Sykes, founder of The Bulwark, editor at large there. Charlie, welcome to the breakdown. Are you muted? Do we hear you? That's okay.
Good to be here.
Yes, there it is. There it is.
So, Charlie, you heard us talking. We're going to start off talking about Virginia. Just continue this conversation for a minute. What's your nickname for Glenn Youngkin?
because I don't have one. I like the whole the whole in a mitt suit thing. Look, I don't really know this guy, but I think that the fact that he had to do that pivot today after the flag was awfully interesting.
Yes.
Look, I mean, this guy has, and you described it well. He's threading the needle. He's got to convince people that he's not crazy. And what does he do? He has the batshit crazy rally. And how batshit crazy was the rally? They bring that January 6th flag along. Even he knew this was bad. Right before the election. So he has to issue that statement today, which is probably going to piss off MAGA world. And this is the problem: as you get close to the election, it's kind of hard for him to be one guy in one part of the state and another guy in the other part of the state. That just doesn't work at this level of power. I mean, before the spotlight goes on, right, Rick? I mean, there's a period where, you're under the radar and you can do that kind of stuff. But when the spotlight goes on, you're going to get exposed.
And Charlie, there's a part of this that in the pre-social media era, you could run ads in Southwest Virginia that look different than your ads in Fairfax. You could cable out and break it out, and you could run very, very different campaigns. Well, we don't live in that era anymore. And the great leveling effect of social media lets us know when you're in Northern Virginia, sort of playing the role of moderate, suburban Republican with the zip up fleece, and when you're in MAGA country down in Southwest Virginia and Roanoke, places like that, and you're playing out this, we're going to investigate this crooked election because it was stolen from our dear leader. I mean, it just doesn't work that way anymore.
No, I think I was probably channeling you, Rick, when I wrote my newsletter this morning, and I said, here's a reminder to the GOP. You bought the ticket,
take the ride.
You take the ride. And it's, here you have Donald Trump, calling in and with his enthusiastic endorsement that Glenn Youngkin will do everything that we want governors to do. Well, okay, we like a list. That's number one. Number two, of course, is this whole Republicans aren't going to vote until we fix this election thing. There's no point in you people voting. Now, I mean, maybe he thinks he's playing, three-dimensional chess here, that this will enable him to delegitimize the election. But the effect on the voters is they'll look around and go, why should I crawl over glass and go through fire if my vote's not going to be counted? I mean, the
Georgia
guy
effect.
says, it's the Georgia effect.
I had forgotten about 3D chess.
Yeah. Was it 3D or 4D chess?
Maybe it's 3D quantum, four-dimensional.
So this is where we miss Rush Limbaugh.
Chess.
Rich Limbaugh would always go, no, it may seem stupid, but what's really going on here is this brilliant double bank shot that he's pulling off, and it's just stupid. I mean, really,
it's just garbage.
And he's stepping on it, and he's going to do this all over the country. I mean, look at what happened in California, and now we're going to see it in Virginia. He's going to come barging into these elections and leaving his mark and all over the carpet. And Republicans are too afraid right now to push back against them. So I was going to ask you guys a question because you follow this more closely than I do. It strikes me that if you're a guy like Glenn Youngkin, you want to campaign that you'll be a strong leader and a competent leader, but this is a real sign of weakness that he can't stand up to Donald Trump, isn't it?
Yes. Can I say something about this really quickly? My husband and I were having dinner tonight before the show, and I was kind of giving him an update on what was going on today. And I said to him, Glenn Youngkin is the worst type of coward. Here's a guy who doesn't need the power. He's worth $440 million, so he shouldn't be beholden to anyone as far as, raising money or holding power. Like, he doesn't have anything to prove anymore. And he could have easily told Donald Trump and the MAGA world to stick it. And actually, presented himself as a sane Republican and probably won this race. But instead, he made the conscious choice to walk the line, which tells me everything I need to know about this guy's character. That power is more important to him than character, than doing the right thing, than principle. And that is the worst type, because he will do whatever it takes to be a pleaser for Donald Trump and MAGA world, if that's what it means to hold on to power. So he answers to Trump. He's not going to answer to the constituents of Virginia. He's going to answer to the MAGA world Trumpers. And that is the last person that Virginia needs in the governor's mansion.
Well, there's one other thing, too. It's this, and this is not a new theme. It's the contempt these guys have for their voters. that he thinks that his base, his constituency is so stupid that he can feed them this kind of thing. And you guys were mentioning this, and I hope people don't gloss over this. Okay, so you've been doing this your whole life, Rick, right? Putting out fundraisers. Who is writing this shit?
Right.
This NRCC stuff. I mean, people may think you were exaggerating before.
No, it's real.
I mean,
this is a fundraising campaign aimed at their own people, right?
Right.
So they're thinking, how do we motivate the Republican base? Alert.
By calling them traitors.
Yeah, read it, Charlie.
You are
read it.
a traitor. You abandoned Trump. We were told you were a tried and true lifelong patriot. But when Trump said he'd run for president, if we took back the House from Nancy Pelosi, you did nothing. Was Trump wrong about you? This is your final chance to prove your loyalty or be branded a deserter. We're giving you one final chance to stand with Trump.
End scene.
It's so stupid. But again, think of the mentality.
But there's something there. These things don't go unless they're A/B tested, unless they work.
That's right.
It tells you where the audience is now.
It's kind of 50 Shades of Grey Trump version. That's like
a little bit, yeah.
Did you guys
50 Shades of Orange?
Did you guys happen to see that? You guys happen to see that North Korean propaganda video yesterday of the North Korean troops throwing themselves on broken glass and breaking concrete with their heads?
Yeah.
I mean, this is these people prove you love Trump like a Yakuza. Give him a finger,
Don't let me tell Daddy that you're not good.
Daddy
will be really disappointed. I mean, the problem with this
Don
is
Jr. must be writing these. That's why.
That's probably how Don Jr. was raised.
Right.
You see, you read this and you go, okay, if Senior's writing it, you understand Eric, right?
Sure.
I mean, you mystery solved.
Yeah. if Junior's writing it, it goes back to the times when he was kept in a box and fed live rats. And,
oh God.
Okay, that's the next fundraising thing.
Right.
So is it?
We thought you loved Trump, but now you won't even eat a live rat for the dear leader.
You have 17 minutes to prove that you do not deserve to be locked in the box with the rats.
Right.
And we'll go. Remember when we thought that was a joke?
Right.
And by the way, this is not the Trump committee. This is the NRCC,
which is being given to millions and millions of dollars by major corporate American firms, but that are household names and listed on the stock exchange, and their brand is. Last time I checked, when Google's giving to these people and Facebook's giving to these people and AT&T and General Motors and everybody else under the sun, they're writing checks to these committees.
Yeah.
The same people that are basically saying, "Are you a traitor to the dear leader? Must you be destroyed?" So we're going to come and torture your family to death and make you watch because you haven't clicked on the monthly donation box.
In 17 minutes. No, not 15, not a half an hour, not tomorrow.
Yeah, well, as a lot of people pointed out, 17 is the magical number in the QAnon cult.
Yeah,
I mean, get the fuck out of here.
That's way above my pay grade.
So
I don't know. But I mean, it goes back to this thing with Youngkin, though. They have internalized this contempt for their own people. And it's like there was once a time when you would have political leaders. Look, politicians have been, have been demagogues forever. But there was a time when you would have political leaders who would go, I respect the voters, and so I'm going to talk to them like adults.
Right.
That just seems like a different planet now. Yeah.
Not anymore.
Well, they don't act like adults. They act like ravenous, 6-year-olds, and so that's how they treat them.
6-year-olds are nice.
Yeah,
they turn nasty around 9. It's like we're going to talk to you like you want to be. Yes.
Here you go, 2-year-olds,
right.
terrible twos. Which actually leads me to the Bannon thing. I'd love to get your take on it, Charlie, because we talk about Steve Bannon, we make fun of him, but he is a really nefarious character who has had his dirty paws in a lot of the ugliest aspects of the organized movement here behind Stop the Steal and when he was over there hiding out in his Italian monastery, wherever the hell he was doing, trying to build an army of fascists over there again.
Nazi Hogwarts.
Yes, there you go. And he's back over here prancing around as if he's untouchable. But do you think that the committee is going to be able to do something with him here? Because guys like him don't understand anything but strength and force.
Well, the answer to your question is they better, because if they don't, the whole operation is discredited and it will fail.
To Rick's point.
So, I mean, no, to Rick's point, we'll have to see, whether they continue to push this, but they ought to. They ought to have the full vote. The notion that he's covered by executive privilege is absolutely ridiculous because he wasn't even working for the government on January 6th.
Correct.
So this may be one of those cases where, people are afraid, well, the litigation will drag things out. This may be one of those things that won't take a judge that long. So I do think that they need to be as aggressive as possible. There's no question about it, because if they are stonewalled on all, look, I mean, in Trump world, they figure we've stonewalled everything. The rule of law really doesn't apply to us. We are above the law. We can stonewall. We refuse to cooperate. We can obstruct justice, and it will be obstructed. It will work. That's the first thing, is they successfully obstruct justice. They successfully stonewall. And if they are, if in the end things don't work out really well for them, they can get a pardon, a presidential pardon. And so you're right, Rick. Steve Bannon knows exactly what he wants to do. He wants to be back into that inner circle, and he's willing to do and say anything. So and people need to take him serious, even though he's a joke.
Right.
I mean, in retrospect, we should have taken seriously when he was running Breitbart and introducing the alt-right into the mainstream, injecting into the mainstream of the Republican Party. And now that he's embracing the real crazy, the fact that he, Steve Bannon, who's not a stupid man, is telling the rubes that Donald Trump might be reinstated. That he is dialing it up and he's prepared to do or say anything to get back into power.
I mean, and I think, I heard a rumor, I don't know, it was one of those mid-tier rumors that, that he had helped engineer the revelations about Corey Lewandowski so that he could remove another player, another piece of the chessboard to move himself further and further in to Trump's good graces. And now he will do a big performative song and say, I'm the stand-up guy of all your stand-up guys. I will be here till the end. I will take heat for you. And you'll know that Bannon is succeeding if he shaves that gristle off his face and goes keto for a while, because he'll try to be pressing Trump.
Right.
But
if he starts wearing, suits that fit, and and it's something else, just to put a point on Youngkin. And then I want to ask you, Charlie, about some of these fraudits, because I know that you're from Wisconsin, and there's, these fraudits.
Oh, you're about to have your own fraudit.
Yeah. If our Democratic friends are listening, what happened today should be a sign that you guys need to put Youngkin on defense. Force him to have to defend the MAGA world crazy that he is surrounding himself with. The fact that he had to come out today and make a statement against what happened at that rally shows you that he can be put on defense if you shove MAGA down his throat. This guy is Donald Trump's guy. Make him answer for that. Go on fucking offense, because offense wins political races. Defense does not. So listen to us. It worked. Look what happened today.
We're begging you.
We're begging you. All right. Wisconsin. So we know about these fraudits that happened in, this nightmare in Arizona. We know that Texas and Florida and Pennsylvania are flirting with the ideas now of doing their own. And now Wisconsin. Talk about this, Charlie. What the hell's happening in Wisconsin? I mean, is Donald Trump going to be reinstated? Is he going to get the electoral votes from Wisconsin now? Are we in for a shocker?
No, you're absolutely not. You are absolutely not in for a shocker, and no one thinks anything like that is going to happen. So this is one of those things where the fire gets out a little bit out of control. So the Speaker of the State Assembly, Robin Vos. Look, I know all these guys.
Robin was a client of mine back in the mid-2000s.
Okay. So Robin's a smart guy, deeply cynical, rose to power by being the bag man of the Republican Party in the Assembly, but very much a pragmatist, keeping his majority. And he knows that Joe Biden won the state, but he figured he had to throw some red meat to the base. So he figured, we'll let this one little committee go off here and do this sort of thing. Well, and then the MAGA world will be satisfied. But MAGA world wasn't satisfied, and they kept pushing and pushing and pushing. You feed them a little, guess what? The crocodile keeps getting bigger.
That's right.
So at one point he was going to hire some retired cops, and that didn't work. So he's flailing around, and he figures, okay, this former Supreme Court Justice, Michael Gableman, who's a piece of work, who I also know very well. He's out of work. Maybe what we'll do is we'll put him in this position. It'll look really serious, right? He'll be the figurehead, and he's a former Supreme Court justice. Now, the fact that he'd appeared at one of the Stop the Steal rallies, and he's kind of a loose cannon. There's a reason why he's a former Supreme Court justice, not a current Supreme Court justice.
Wisconsin Supreme Court.
Right, in Wisconsin. Right. And the thing has just been a clown show. I mean, it has just been, Gableman admits he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how elections are done. He hasn't voted for some time. He put out, he put out subpoenas that, had typos. I mean, it's a long list. The Washington Post has a good story about it. It's been embarrassing, emails with fake names on them. And again, if you're Robin Voss, you're figuring, I'm going to do this just to get the heat off of me so the crazies will shut up and think we're doing something. But you cannot appease the crazies on this issue.
No.
And the more you try to appease them, the crazier they get. So even though Arizona, being the perfect example, it turned out to be a laughingstock, right? Wisconsin is going to be a laughingstock, but it won't stop these people. They'll keep coming, and they will keep doing this.
That's the problem here, is that there's a relatively low political cost so far to the Republican legislative bodies that do this.
Yep.
There's there's not a public outcry. There's not a, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Why aren't you focusing on real things? And so they'll keep doing it. And it's part of the broad 2024 strategy, just to disqualify and to burn down the credibility, and to reduce these things down to the silliest and most, absurd de minima.
And that's why you can't have crazy governors who are beholden to these people in the executive offices of these states, because depending on the state, every state has different election rules and the way they administer them. But, that's part of the plan. Republicans are better at this. They're better at the establishing grassroots organization and putting their people in the right places, where the Democrats are asleep at the switch oftentimes. So, this is what they're doing. That's the long game for them. And so we have to keep paying attention to this, because local elections matter. Right. If all the crazy going on at school board meetings hasn't kind of awakened people to what's possible, I don't know what will, because this is what's coming, folks. This is what's coming.
Hey, Charlie, speaking of Wisconsin, how's our friend Ron Johnson doing?
Oh,
Ron and on. I don't know. He hasn't been. I keep going back and forth whether he's going to run for re-election. I think there was a period where he was talking himself out of it.
Right.
But I'll be honest with you, two things are out there. Number one, it looks like it's going to, the conventional wisdom is that it looks like it's going to be a good year for Republicans, right? An off-year election. Yep. And the Democrats may nominate a candidate from the real progressive wing, a very, very woke candidate, the sitting lieutenant governor, who the deep conventional wisdom among Republicans would not be electable. So Ron Johnson is looking at that, looking at the environment, looking at the candidate the Democrats are going to come up with. And as crazy and reckless as he has been, he will think that he can win, and he may not be wrong.
Yeah, I think the Democrats underestimate just how deeply red everything outside of the WOW counties is these days.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
That's right.
Very, very red. Now, he will lose some support here in the WOW counties. But remember, Ron Johnson has run ahead of Donald Trump. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I think he got something like 70,000 more votes than Trump back in 2016. Right. So something like that. Well, he's got a little bit of a margin. But if he was running, I would have thought that he would have toned down the crazy, and he keeps coming out with shit that is like, what are you reading? Who are you talking to?
Yeah,
what's really happening?
I mean, this is a guy who went from being kind of a center-right guy to being not just like a Trumper, but like
conspiracy theory,
chemtrails,
right.
QAnon,
Russian
Looney Tunes.
propagandist
Yeah.
person as head of, the Homeland Security Committee when the Republicans ran the Senate. Like, I was shocked. I'm like, what the hell happened to Ron Johnson?
I know that. I mean, I know the guy. I've met the guy. I know you've probably talked to him. And early on, he was a very reasonable guy. He's from Oshkosh,
Yeah.
I mean, but.
Well, it shows you that no one is safe from the ilk of Trumpism. Well, Charlie, thank you so much. We appreciate you. What's coming up on the Bulwark podcast?
Well, I think Bill Kristol and I are going to hash some things out tomorrow morning. I was talking with Ian Basson today. I think you guys know him from Protect Democracy.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the need to have a pro-democracy coalition, that we need to work together. Well, I know that we're in. I'm kind of raising the question is, how is that coalition hanging together? Do people on the other side really want us in that coalition? So
they should, if they know it's good for them.
I have a philosophy about that that's been fairly explicitly stated a few times. Do we have to do every goddamn thing for you? Apparently, yes.
Well, but we're willing. We're willing and able.
We make a lot of friends.
Yes, let's do this together. The more the merrier, as I say. Charlie Sykes, thank you so much. Everybody,
thank you,
check
Charlie.
out
Really appreciate you.
Okay.
They do great work over there. Say hi to Bill Kristol for us. We got to get him over here to hang out with us.
All right.
Thanks, Charlie. Oh man, yeah, it's the Bulwark does great work. I'm glad that they're out there because they give a voice to the center right, reasonable people who are on the right side of this issue that that didn't have the alternative anymore of National Review or Red State or some of the other publications that used to be sane that have decided to sell out to Trumpism. So good for Charlie and them over there. Before we go, we're going to talk a little AT&T, give an update. We have an update, folks. We have an update.
Yes. We have an AT&T update.
Yes. So thank you to everyone who has been watching and retweeting and posting our AT&T ad. It has over 2 million views now on Twitter, which is outstanding. And people are pissed off when they're hearing about what's going on. They're like, we don't want our money going to a company that is funding a conspiracy theory, white nationalist channel like OANN. One America News is not something people want their money to go to. So they have been hanging up on ATT. There's the hashtag hang up on ATT. Continue to hashtag, continue to show us your screenshots of leaving AT&T. We appreciate that. And we put out a graphic because some folks are like, okay, I want to leave, but where do I go? So we have put this graphic out that gives you some alternatives to AT&T if you make that decision to help you decide where to go. So that is posted on all of our social media channels. And we hope that you guys continue to send a message that funding insurrectionists and conspiracy theorist news stations is not okay. Anything else? I think that's it for us tonight,
what? I
Rick.
think that's it for us for tonight. And we will see you folks again on Tuesday.
Yes, at our new time of 7 p.m. We have
everybody seems to like the 7 p.m. window. It's good.
It is good. It's good. And I just DVR Jeopardy. So it's great. You can DVR Jeopardy and watch us live. All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Safe. Get your vaccines if you haven't gotten it. Get your booster if you're allowed now. Moderna, you can get it. Pfizer, it's out there. And we'll see you guys on Tuesday at 7.
Thanks, everybody.
Hi, I'm Ryan Wiggins at the Lincoln Project. And there's a lot going on we need to talk about. Trump's been hinting at a 2024 presidential run using the big lie that the 2020 election was stolen from him, and it's working. New polls show fewer Republicans are willing to hold the January 6th rioters criminally responsible. Meanwhile, GOP-controlled states are leading voter suppression campaigns nationwide. The Lincoln Project is working to neuter the current GOP-controlled government to ensure that future elections are fair and democratic and to put power back in the hands of the people where it belongs. But we can't do it without you. Go to lincolnproject.us/donate to join in our long-term fight for democracy. We're honored to have you with us, and we're not letting up.